Have you ever felt invisible to the very people you once gave everything to? What if rejection wasn't a wound, but a mirror showing you where your real power begins? Because the Stoics didn't fear being ignored, they mastered how to use it to rise. Now, imagine this. You're the most powerful man on earth. You command armies, lead nations, make laws. And yet, each day, you wake up surrounded by betrayal, war, disease, and people who smile in your face while sharpening daggers behind your back. That was the daily reality of Marcus Aurelius, an emperor. Yes, but also a human being navigating chaos with terrifying clarity. But what kept him steady wasn't his title. It wasn't his empire. It was a quiet, ancient force Stoicism. A philosophy not designed to make you feel good, but to make you strong. Not to control others, but to govern yourself. It was this mindset that allowed Marcus to endure silence, disrespect, abandonment, and fear and still lead with dignity. And today, in a world of unread messages, ghosted conversations, and attention that vanishes without explanation, that philosophy becomes more powerful than ever. Because rejection hurts, but it doesn't have to defeat you. In this video, I'll share with you 13 Stoic lessons that transformed not just how I understand rejection, but how I use it. And I'll show you how Marcus Aurelius, despite ruling the known world, found power in restraint, strength in silence, and freedom in detachment. Let's begin this journey together. Not to escape rejection, but to rise above it. Part 1. Build inner strength by turning away. Sometimes the most powerful reaction is no reaction at all. In a world where attention is currency and silence feels like punishment, choosing to rise above someone's indifference becomes the ultimate act of power. But not power over them, power over yourself. Lesson 1. Ignore them, rise above. When someone rejects you through silence, distance, or indifference, the first instinct is often to chase, to ask questions, to fight to be seen. But Stoicism flips that impulse. Instead of trying to pull them closer, it teaches you to turn inward. Because someone who dismisses your time, your energy, your presence, is not robbing you of worth. They're revealing their own blindness to value. Ignoring those who try to diminish you is not a cold-hearted tactic. It's a quiet declaration. I do not need your validation to stay rooted in who I am. Imagine someone treats your presence as optional. The moment you stop trying to prove your place is the moment you reclaim it. Your silence becomes your mirror. Not to show them what they missed, but to show yourself what you deserve. But how do you walk this path without becoming bitter? The answer lies in where you focus. Don't feed energy into the absence. Redirect it into your goals, into the people who see you, into activities that restore your spirit, reading, learning, building, moving. This isn't about revenge. This is about realignment. Let their disinterest fuel your development. Let their silence amplify your clarity. Don't just resist rejection, thrive through it. Because when you pour into yourself, instead of into the void, you don't just survive, you rise. You don't collapse inward, you expand outward. That's not avoidance, that's maturity. And it's that maturity that makes you unforgettable, not because you begged to be remembered, but because you became impossible to ignore. Lesson 2. Free your mind from them. Detachment isn't pretending something didn't hurt. It's refusing to let it define you. Yes, rejection stings. Ghosting feels personal. Indifference cuts deep. But clinging to playing it in your mind, dissecting every silence only gives it more power than it deserves. Detachment is the skill of a seasoned Stoic. Like a sailor in rough seas, you don't fight the waves, you ride them. You feel the surge, you adjust your sails, and you keep moving forward. So start there. Acknowledge what happened. Let it sting, but don't let it stay. You are not the rejection. You are the one moving beyond it. Erase them from the center of your mental world, not out of spite, but out of discipline. Your thoughts are sacred real estate. And someone who doesn't respect your presence doesn't get to occupy space in your mind rent-free. Clear that space. Reclaim that energy. Redirect it towards something beautiful, something you build with your own hands, your own breath, your own truth. When you free your mind from the grip of someone else's absence, you begin to fill it with your own presence. And that is when you become whole again. Part 2. Mastering Reaction. Stoic calm under pressure. In moments of rejection, it's easy to collapse inward, to question yourself, to panic and react. But the Stoics remind us, if someone can provoke you, they've already mastered you. And so emotional mastery begins where reaction ends. Lesson 3. Avoid emotional impulsiveness. When someone rejects you, ignores you, disrespects you, or walks away, your body reacts before your mind can reason. You feel it instantly. The sting, the heat, the urge to say something, to prove something. But this is the trap. This is where most people fall into emotional chaos. Into text messages sent in desperation. Into confrontations laced with pain. Into spirals of regret. The Stoic way is different. It invites you to breathe before you break, to pause before you pour emotion into someone who no longer deserves that access. This isn't about repressing your emotions. It's about reclaiming your response. You feel everything, but you are not ruled by anything. That's the strength of a man in command of himself. So, when you feel ignored, instead of lashing out or shrinking down, choose the pause. Ask yourself, why does this sting so deeply? Often, it's not their silence that hurts, it's what it awakens in you. Fear of being unworthy, invisible, forgettable. But those fears? They aren't facts. And you don't need to fight rejection. You need to understand your reaction to it. Now reframe it. This moment does not define you. It's simply feedback not of your value, but of their vision. And their inability to see you clearly is not your burden to carry. Remain calm. Remain kind. If you respond, do so without expectation. You are not seeking a win. You are seeking alignment with your own self-respect. That restraint, that composure, that is power. Because when your energy is no longer reactive, it becomes magnetic. Lesson 4. Demonstrate your value calmly. Rejection has a sneaky way of making you feel like you need to prove something. Like you have to show them what they're missing. Like your worth depends on whether they change their mind. But the moment you fall into that performance, you lose your center. True Stoic strength lies in subtlety. You don't need to announce your value. You embody it. You let your consistency speak. You invest in your growth quietly. You rise not to impress, but to evolve. So redirect your energy. Dive into experiences that expand your identity. Read something that stretches your mind. Move your body with intention. Create something meaningful. Serve a cause bigger than yourself. These aren't distractions, they're declarations. You're not avoiding pain, you're choosing purpose. And just as importantly, surround yourself with voices that lift you. People who see your effort, your heart, your vision. A supportive environment isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Because you don't heal in the same place you were hurt. You heal in places that reflect your value back to you. The more you build your life around meaningful action and calm presence, the more resilient you become. You stop being shaken by someone else's withdrawal. You stop shrinking when ignored. You stop questioning your worth based on shallow responses. Because at your core, you know, your power is not in chasing. It's in standing still and letting your gravity speak for itself. Part 3. Withdraw to regain control. Sometimes, the loudest statement is made in silence. Not in explanation, not in confrontation, but in calm withdrawal. When someone overlooks your presence, doubts your ability, or denies your worth, Stoicism doesn't tell you to argue. It tells you to refocus, not on them, but on yourself. Lesson 5. Demonstrate your value quietly. Rejection is not always an insult. Sometimes it's simply redirection. A closed door that's quietly guiding you somewhere your skills, your energy, your vision are actually needed. So instead of spiraling into self-doubt, choose to show not tell what you're capable of. You didn't get the job? Then pour everything into the project you control. You were passed over in the meeting? Let your results speak so loudly they can't be ignored next time. This is not about fighting to be noticed. It's about building something that commands notice naturally. Remind yourself, when one door closes, another opens. That's not just comfort, it's a call to action. Your value was never tied to their recognition, and their silence isn't proof of your failure. It's space for your power to grow. Use it. Use rejection as raw material for a better version of yourself. Align with what actually fits you. Redefine what success looks like on your terms. Focus on becoming so grounded that indifference no longer shakes you, and so skilled that dismissal becomes their missed opportunity, not your defeat. Growth doesn't come from being constantly accepted. It comes from rising when you're not. Lesson 6. Reduce contact to regain clarity. The moment you're ignored or dismissed, the natural instinct is to close the gap, to call, to explain, to chase closure. But Stoicism teaches something different. Resist the urge to fill the void and instead observe it. This is the moment to take a step back, not to punish the other person, but to protect your emotional energy. Reducing contact isn't passive, it's intentional. It says, I value my peace more than your attention. It's not manipulation, it's alignment. In that silence, you find yourself again. You recalibrate. You remember that your worth doesn't need confirmation from someone else's screen or reply. You don't chase, you choose. And when you stop reaching, something powerful happens. You start rising. You focus on your goals. You reconnect with what lights you up. You rediscover the version of you that existed before the rejection. And the silence becomes more than absence, becomes sanctuary. No contact isn't cold, it's clear. It sends a message not out of cruelty, but out of self-respect. I will not beg to be seen. I will not convince you to value what you refuse to notice. In a world addicted to instant responses, your pause becomes powerful. Your lack of reaction becomes attractive, because it signals something deeper than detachment. It signals discipline. You have a life to build, a purpose to protect, a peace too precious to gamble on inconsistent behavior. When you withdraw to regain control, you're not disappearing. You're recentering. And that is where real strength begins. Part 4. Restore joy. Power through action. When someone withdraws their energy from your life, your first instinct may be to shrink, to retreat inward, to replay the moment they turned cold. But Stoicism teaches us something radical. Instead of collapsing in the face of rejection, expand. Because rejection isn't the end of your story. It's a redirection. And in that space, in that silence, lives your greatest chance to rediscover power. Lesson 7. Explore and have fun. It may sound counterintuitive. How could fun possibly be a remedy for pain? But joy, especially after disappointment, is not a luxury. It's resistance. It's a protest against the part of you that was conditioned to believe your happiness lives in someone else's hands. When you're hurting, it's tempting to shut down, to stay in, to numb out. But that reaction only tightens the grip of rejection. So choose the opposite. Choose life. Pick up the hobby you've been postponing. Try something you've never dared learn to dance. Paint without needing it to be perfect. Hike a trail alone, even if you're unsure of the way. These aren't just distractions. They are declarations. Each act of curiosity is you whispering, I am more than what didn't work out. And then there's the power of connection. We often isolate when we feel rejected, assuming we're alone in our pain. But shared experiences restore our sense of belonging. Invite a friend for coffee. Join a local community group. Sit in a room of strangers and create something together, a sketch, a melody, a story. These small human moments ground you. They remind you, you're not broken. You're still here. You still matter. Try a cuisine you've never had. Visit a neighborhood that feels unfamiliar. Take a class that challenges your comfort zone. Each new experience reshapes your sense of self. You're not avoiding the memory, you're evolving beyond it. Because the truth is, emotional resilience doesn't always look like quiet meditation. Sometimes it looks like spontaneous laughter, like learning to cook your grandmother's recipe, like going on a trip alone for the first time, like realizing that joy can return even if they don't. You don't have to erase the past. You just have to prove to yourself that there's a life beyond it. And not just a life, but a vibrant, colorful, fully alive one. Lesson 8. Develop your social status authentically. Let's be clear. Stoicism does not encourage vanity or performance. But it does teach us to build a life so rooted in growth that recognition becomes irrelevant. And paradoxically, that's exactly what makes you magnetic. Maybe you've walked into a room and felt invisible. Maybe you've spoken and felt unheard. That moment stings. But it's also an invitation, not to chase attention, but to cultivate presence. Ask yourself, what kind of person do I want to become in rooms where I'm underestimated? Because your social presence isn't about being the loudest, it's about being the most aligned, the most intentional, the most quietly certain of your path. Start by investing in the parts of you that no one else sees. Learn deeply, move your body with purpose, develop a craft, study a subject, serve a cause. Become more of what you admire and less of what you used to seek approval for. Share your passions, not to impress, but to connect. When you talk about your growth, your ideas, your process, people feel that energy. You don't have to sell yourself. Just show up in your truth. That's enough. And don't underestimate the power of contribution. Volunteer, mentor someone, organize something small but meaningful. This isn't about being noticed, it's about being useful. Stoicism teaches us that virtue is its own reward. So serve from abundance, not lack, from dignity, not desperation. The more you rise from within, the less you depend on external recognition to feel seen. And ironically, that's when others begin to truly notice not because you tried harder, but because you stopped needing them to. Your social power isn't about being the center of attention. It's about radiating a calm, grounded confidence that says, I know who I am, and I don't need your approval to act like it. That's what makes you stand out, not your performance, but your presence. So instead of chasing popularity, chase alignment. Instead of being consumed with being chosen, choose yourself fully, again and again. until it's no longer a performance, but your way of being. Because that's what Stoicism is. Not a shield against emotion, but a system for reclaiming your identity in a world full of noise. You don't need to prove your worth in reaction to rejection. You just need to keep becoming the kind of person who no longer waits for permission to shine. Part 5. Indifference as armor. Silent power in motion. When someone chooses to ignore you, they are not just testing your patience, they are offering you a mirror. Not to reflect them, but to reflect back on yourself. Where do I place my energy? Who gets access to my emotional life? And why? Lesson 9. Adopt reciprocal indifference. There is a rare kind of power in not reacting. Not because you're weak, not because you've given up, but because your inner world has grown too calm to be rattled by surface-level noise. Stoicism calls this reciprocal indifference and no spite, not vengeance, but serene self-possession. When someone withdraws emotionally, the automatic response is often to overcompensate, to reach out, to fix, to decode their silence like a puzzle that must be solved. But here's the Stoic truth. If they choose to step back, let them. It's not your job to chase someone who's showing you they no longer value your presence. Redirect that energy. In a social gathering, for instance, don't waste time orbiting around someone cold. Turn toward those who genuinely engage. Seek warmth where it flows naturally. That single shift says more about your dignity than 1,000 unspoken pleas ever could. And when you must interact with them, whether in work or shared, space be clear, professional, and brief. Speak with purpose, not with need. Don't offer more depth than the moment calls for. This isn't emotional withdrawal, it's boundary clarity. Because the truth is, you are not obligated to give your depth to someone who only offers you their surface. And if the disregard continues, withdraw not in weakness, but in wisdom. Don't escalate, don't plead, don't prove. Simply remove your emotional currency from a place where it's not respected. This is not silence as manipulation. This is silence as liberation. Reciprocal indifference is not about acting like they don't exist. It's about choosing not to center them in your thoughts, your plans, your day. It's the quiet declaration. I'm no longer giving you the power to affect me. And in a world obsessed with reaction, that calm is revolutionary. Because true strength is not in being louder, it's in being unshaken. Lesson 10. Practice deliberate silence. Sometimes, the wisest thing you can say is nothing at all. But don't mistake that for weakness. Stoicism teaches us that silence, when chosen intentionally, becomes a tool of profound emotional control. Not to punish the other person, but to protect your inner state. Think about it. How often have words only made things worse? When someone is cold or disrespectful, firing back might feel satisfying in the moment, but it rarely brings peace. Instead, it prolongs chaos. Deliberate silence breaks the pattern. It introduces stillness into noise, space into tension. And in that pause, you gain something powerful: perspective. You begin to ask deeper questions. Why does this affect me? What emotion is this triggering in me, and why? Am I reacting to them, or am I responding to an old story I've never questioned? That's where the transformation begins. Silence becomes your sanctuary. Not because you're avoiding conflict, but because you're choosing clarity over chaos. This is what the Stoics called temperance, the ability to restrain oneself, not out of fear, but out of strength. It means not lowering yourself to someone else's reactive level. It means choosing calm over clever comebacks, peace over petty battles. Use that silence to reflect, journal, breathe, walk, center yourself. This isn't shutting down, it's opening up to what truly matters. Your virtues, your values, your vision for who you are becoming. Because if someone's indifference shakes you, it means there's something inside still waiting to be stabilized. And silence gives you the space to stabilize it. So the next time you're ignored, don't rush to fill the void. Let it echo. Let it teach you. Let it soften the noise in your mind until you hear your own voice again. And let your stillness speak. Because that silence, when grounded in strength, becomes louder than any argument. It says, I am not here to compete for attention. I am here to protect my peace. Part 6. Quiet Resilience. Protecting Inner Dignity. There's a kind of strength that doesn't roar. It doesn't post updates. It doesn't demand to be seen. It simply endures, grows, glows. And that, in its quiet steadiness, becomes unshakable. That is quiet resilience, the Stoic way of honoring your dignity in a world that often overlooks it. Lesson 11. Don't beg for attention. It's natural to want to be seen, to be heard, to feel like your presence matters. But when someone chooses to ignore you, the Stoics offer a different lens. Do not chase what's fading. Do not fight to be noticed by those who choose not to see you. Begging for attention does not prove your worth, it postpones your healing. The moment you feel yourself leaning in harder, over-explaining, or subtly trying to be noticed, pause. Ask yourself, why am I offering more energy to someone who's giving me less? What am I really seeking? Connection or validation? Now is the time to turn inward. Dedicate yourself to your projects, your passions, your people, the ones who value you without conditions. Let your growth speak louder than your requests. Let your consistency become your message. You don't need to show them what they lost. You only need to show yourself what you're becoming. This isn't passivity. This is intentional, conscious redirection of power. Instead of chasing fleeting validation, you build a life that fulfills you independent of who pays attention. And here's the irony. When you stop trying to be noticed, you become magnetic. People are drawn not to desperation, but to self-assurance. Your energy changes. Your posture changes. Your presence carries weight. This is not performance. This is your power. Lesson 12. Be kind, but emotionally distant. Rejection often tempts us to close off or lash out. But Stoicism suggests a third way. Stay kind, but guard your emotional space. That doesn't mean becoming cold. It means becoming wise. Offering a greeting, a smile, or polite words without attaching your worth to how they respond. Kindness, when genuine and unattached, is powerful. It says, I don't need to hurt you to protect me. It allows you to uphold your values, even when others fall short. But with kindness must come emotional boundaries. You're not a sponge for indifference. You don't owe anyone your vulnerability. Speak with grace, but don't overshare. Be courteous, not open. Offer warmth, not your entire heart. This distance isn't a wallet's clarity. It's the quiet statement. I'm not defined by how you treat me. In choosing this path, you protect your peace. You respond, not react. You stay soft in the heart, but solid in the mind. And that balance, kindness without naivety, warmth without neediness, emotional mastery. It's not your job to fix others. It's your job to protect what's sacred inside you. Lesson 13. Keep your struggles private. There will be moments you want to explain, to justify, to show how much you're hurting, hoping that vulnerability might reopen the door. But Stoicism whispers gently, you don't have to bleed publicly to be brave. Keeping your struggles private isn't about hiding. It's about holding your emotions with reverence. You're not suppressing. You're choosing when, where, and with whom to open up. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your healing. Acknowledge your emotions, but don't let them run the show. You can cry in solitude and still be powerful. You can fall apart in the quiet, then rise the next morning and build something meaningful just for you. Your strength isn't measured by how loudly you suffer. It's measured by how steadily you move forward. Focus on what's in your control, your reactions, your intentions, your next decision. Keep creating. Keep showing up for yourself. Not to prove you're okay, but to reaffirm that your worth was never theirs to determine. Because in holding your struggle with dignity, you reclaim something deeper than attention. You reclaim your identity. So when faced with rejection, choose this path. Don't beg build. Be kind but boundaried. Struggle quietly and grow relentlessly. This is the quiet revolution of Stoicism. A return to strength that no one can see coming. A resilience rooted not in words, but in action. Not in proving, but in being. Every no becomes a new layer of wisdom. Every silence becomes an invitation to listen inward. Every loss becomes an opening to come home to yourself. And as we close this journey, remember, your worth doesn't tremble in the face of indifference. It stands, breathes, builds, and rises anyway. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to chase, to explain, or to be louder to be worthy. You only need to return to the quiet place within you, where your peace begins and your dignity never left. If this message found you at the right moment, let it stay with you. Let it grow in you. And if you feel called to share this journey, drop a simple comment below. I choose stillness over reaction. It's not just a sentence, it's a declaration. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Not for the numbers, but for the reminders. Because here, we don't react to the world. We rise above it with grace, with strength, and with calm. Until next time, stay grounded, stay quiet, and stay deeply, unapologetically yourself.